Hey folks, well it's January 14th, 2022, and Thea and I thought we'd sit down and talk a little bit about some of the things, my approaches to investigating, researching the various forms of investments, whether it's our time, our energy, our money, how I go about it and break it all down and all. Sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds good. When I first hear the word investment, of course, it's money that comes, to mind, but there's really so many other things that are part of our lives. So we decided we'd come together and give it a go today.
Yep. So if you do a research online for the 8 forms of capital, or 8 forms of investment, or 8 forms of capital permaculture, I believe it's Appleseed Permaculture came up with 8 forms of capital, and that resonated so much with me years ago. Thea and I are both permaculturists. We are a lot of the work that we do here on site is permaculture based, and that starts from our ethics, our principles, our guiding principles, and how we go about designing our property and our lives and businesses as well. So what I thought I'd do today was review, which I've covered in other videos to a certain extent, the 10 forms of capital or forms of wealth or forms of investment that I look at. And I sat down yesterday and just jotted some of these things, these subcategories down, and Thea and I both, Thea looked at them this morning, and so that's what we're going to do today, is talk a bit about that. The first form of investment or capital or wealth that one usually thinks about is financial wealth, and that's what Thea was just saying. And there's lots of stories we could tell about this, and like one quick story is Thea's dad talking about years ago he had the opportunity to invest in IBM. Do you want to tell the quick story?
Yeah, he worked as a plumber in New York City. I think it was at Columbia University, and way back in the day. And so he was in the basement fixing the plumbing, and there was these guys with boards there with all kinds of numbers and everything. And Dad was probably 20, and they pulled him to the side and say, sell your car and invest in this company, and it'll change your life. And it was IBM, and he never did it, and he always regretted it.
Yeah. So when I think about that story, I think about missed opportunities. But again, he was someone that probably shouldn't have invested in it just based on blind faith. So I really believe in doing research, getting to know the fundamentals of whatever it is that you're investing in. And the other thing I'll say is all of these forms of capital that I choose to talk about here are based on my core ethics, which are also derived from the permaculture ethics. And my personal version is self-care, earth care, people care, and future care. And I've made videos about those topics in the past. So all of the forms of investments that I choose to invest in, my time, my energy, my money, are all based on, is it in alignment with our ethics? And so the first form of, again, is financial capital or financial investments. And so, if you're listening to this and hopefully gaining something from this, you can jot down different subcategories. So I had put down in here money, income, investments, businesses, side hustles, retirement planning, estate planning, charitable contributions, and I'm sure there are many other forms, financial subcategories of capital and wealth that anyone can come up with. The next category is material capital. And for those people around here, so I've had some folks comment about how privileged I am, and the truth is, yes, I'm a white male, born in the United States, the land of opportunity, And so there's certainly tremendous privileges that go along with that, and privileges over even being a white woman, or being a person of color, or being a person who wasn't born in the United States. When I look at material investments, and the subcategories that I came up with are buildings and structures, vehicles, various tools, equipment, clothing, furnishings, electronics. We're surrounded by all these material things that we have. And one of the things I should stop now and say is, whenever I'm thinking about an investment, I'm always looking at what value does this offer me? And the best investments have multifunctional components of value. They may give you value, like if you invest in an excavator, you can think about, well, I could rent pieces of equipment, or I could hire someone to come in and do the work. But if I buy the piece of equipment, that'll allow me to develop skills, develop my knowledge base, so that it helps with other forms of capital investment. And it also allows me, potentially some people will make money on the side. It'll be a side hustle, putting in a septic system or digging trenches for people, those sorts of things. Or it certainly can be a form of investment when you look inflation rising. If you take good care of that piece of equipment, you may be able to sell it for the same amount of money that you purchased the piece of equipment for. So we're always looking at, when we're talking about making these investments, the value and the costs. And I'm always looking for, will it provide multiple functions? Will the ultimate value of it be greater than the cost going in? And I look at that over time as well. And then the other thing that I look at when I'm looking at forms of investment, whether it's a degenerative form of investment, until this recent year, I'd say that buying a motor vehicle brand new off the lot would be a degenerative investment because it depreciates immediately. A generative form of investment would be, an example would be a garden, or something, or an financial investment that keeps at the same rate as inflation. So let's say that this year, if your investments in the market yield 6% return on your investment, and inflation was 6%, that's a generative. I'm always looking to see, can we get a regenerative? In other words, where the investment, although it costs us X number of dollars, and our return on investment is X amount, we want the return on investment to exceed the rate of inflation. So degenerative, generative, and regenerative forms of investment. Sorry, I'm breaking this up some.
That's okay, you're on a roll, keep going.
Okay. So far we've covered the financial and material forms of investment, then living forms of investment, or living forms of wealth and all. And
You mean like things that are alive?
yeah, all living creatures, and so, and I think about ecosystems, so soil, microbes, microbiomes, all forms of life, habitats, ecosystems. So certainly investing in a food forest is absolutely wonderful. And that's a regenerative form of investment, because it may cost you X number of dollars and time and energy to put in the trees that you first put in. It's minimal maintenance over the years, and you keep getting a return on your investment potentially for many years. Some people may put in trees that could be harvested for in the future for hardwood, for cabinet making or whatever, for their grandchildren in the future. So living forms of investment with us, I'm always thinking about building soil and taking waste products, whether it's cardboard, paper products, or waste from using hugelkultur, breaking down wood products to make more soil, all of those sorts of things. So various living forms of capital, all life systems, including ponds as an ecosystem, woodlots. These are all beautiful ecosystems.
And if you plant a lot of fruit trees and you enjoy going out there and picking them and preserving and canning and sharing with the community, that has like another level of
That's right.
wonderfulness.
So when we look at material and living, putting those together, because a lot of these cross, and so there's multiple factors associated with it. So let's say you were to invest in a piece of property that has wetlands on it, or wood lots on it. That could be a source of revenue coming in. Your children may start to provide firewood to someone. Someone may start gardens there, or start market gardens there. So there's the financial capital, there's the living capital by building in the soil, building in the things, and there's also potential material capital from selling the wood or renting a home, that sort of thing. So these all are potentially multiple categories that you can divide an investment up into. Another form of capital is intellectual capital, and so I'm thinking about formal or informal education, building your vocabulary and your communication skills. Images, like YouTube videos, are a form of intellectual capital. The courses that you can take online as well. Knowledge acquired through research, schooling, internships, residencies, work studies, all sorts of things. And I'm sure each one of these categories could be expanded upon a great deal. Again, when I'm looking at investing in, most of us think about when you go to get a job, well, what's the value that I'm getting out of it? Well, you'd say, geez, I could be getting a paycheck. I could be getting contributions to a 401k. I could be getting contributions to a retirement account. Some jobs give you fulfillment as far as feeling like you're fulfilling your social capital as well, and all. You may develop great relationships and develop more investments into a cultural capital. So looking at at what you're getting out of what it was, intellectual capital is the one that I came into. You may be learning a great deal. So when you go to a job, you may be developing skills, maybe learning new information, and so on. So, anything you got to say about that, hon?
No, and we always thought it was schooling, and going up the ranks and all that, but, you can get so much wealth from just talking to another person, and listening to their stories of their life experience and what they did or didn't do that they recommend for others, so others don't fall in the same traps. So talking to people is kind of important.
Yeah, and that's with our social and cultural capitals as well. Those relationships that we develop are so important for our own personal growth, and as we invest in these relationships, it really does pay off a great deal. My next category is experiential. Those are the skills acquired through practices, knowledge, wisdom acquired through physical activities, jobs, professions, hobbies, volunteering, certainly careers, work, that sort of thing, and school. So we can gain so much by the opportunities of working with others or working independently, doing our own research, and then applying that research and gaining the experiences. So developing as many skills as possible. I could go on and make this nauseating, the length of the video that I could talk about the things that I have invested time in that have paid back tremendously by basically doing research. And there's so many resources out there nowadays. Our phones are comparable to a supercomputer years ago, and there's so many resources out there that can allow us to get the intellectual and allow us to create opportunities for us to get the experiential.
And sometimes even fixing things yourself, because you could look up how to do it, now, of course, on Google.
Yeah.
And all. And, if you build your confidence in doing that, and Kevin does all the plumbing, all the electric, all the everything here, which is a little excessive for most, but if it's fun and you're learning and you're developing your skills, that's great.
Yeah. So the next one is social capital, and this is my weakest one. But the subcategories I have here, and probably you can add more to this, it's connecting with people, nature, and animals, because I actually get a great deal of social value from connecting with animals, connecting with nature, and all, and certainly connecting with people. Communications through bonding and bridging are important with developing social capital. Do you have anything to add with social capital, hon?
No, because, it's good to have friends, I think. It's good to connect with other people. And it's also helpful for the person you're connecting. Sometimes you're just meant to talk to them that day and you uplift them. Or they need something and they're afraid to ask, but once you get talking to them, they'll ask. So it's a big web and it all weaves together. So sometimes you just have to make yourself reach out,
Yeah,
and say hi, and the ball just gets rolling from there.
Miss Social.
Yes.
So, and Thea just said this, all of these things that I've broken down really are part of an integrated web. It's a meshwork they all build upon each other. The next category I have is cultural, things that bind us or separate us from other groups. It's how we see ourselves and how we see others. Upbringing, beliefs, language, mannerisms, preferences, empathy, sympathy, kindness, compassion. These are all, the social and cultural ones are certainly, Thea brings so much of these to our relationship. And I've learned a lot through my exposure to Thea throughout our relationship.
I think too, like, if people like traveling and can, when I was growing up, our family traveled. So I got exposed to other cultures and therefore not believing that, growing up in New York State and Westchester County was the place and it's the only right way. But there's other, I guess, foreign countries everywhere, and they're all different. And it doesn't make us better than them. So being exposed to others and learning their beliefs and their feelings and all really makes you a more expansive, person, and you can deal with change better. I think that way too.
Absolutely. Well, you can appreciate the value of differences, and I think that my greatest social and cultural experiences have been through university. Now, there's many things that I could say that's wrong with our educational systems and all, but certainly through the educational process, going to multicultural universities and being in a teaching hospital with multicultural components, whether they're students or interns or residents or faculty, that really, and even being it was somewhat exposed to, beyond your own specialty or your own profession, you're exposed to, in a university setting, so many different cultures and social groups. I think it's fulfilling. As a nation now, I see us as becoming so isolated and separated and just being exposed to the same things over and over again, as opposed to being exposed to differences and to some of the comparable things that we share with others that we normally wouldn't be associating with other groups.
And then sometimes, even if you don't travel, you don't like travel, you can't travel, or you're not exposed to different cultures at big universities, then thank God for YouTube, because we were watching something the other day and it was different, like being in Finland and what their beliefs are and how they live. And, I never even thought of a lot of these things. So we all have the opportunity to get on, the web and get, all those people's opinions and how they're living. And if there's some that we feel we want to incorporate into ours, the info's right there.
Yeah, it's amazing what technology has allowed us to be exposed to, if we choose to be exposed to it. And we both appreciate that a great deal. The next category is spiritual wealth or spiritual capital, our faith and beliefs, prayer, worship, belief in being part of something greater than ourselves, what brings us inner joy, the realization of our oneness with all things. You added that one, did you?
Yeah, I
Yes.
snuck it in there. Yeah. And,
Yep.
there's the spiritual is more than just, the religions out there in the world, but it's your inner peace, it's your inner soul, it's how, we bring ourselves to other people and nature and animals and, and do you feel the oneness and what brings you joy, Is the joy really come from in here, or are we depending from somebody doing or not doing or something we purchase that's going to give us joy? I think true joy comes from inside, no matter what your surrounding is. And then you're at peace and things don't bother you
Yeah.
like they could,
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I completely agree, and having opportunities to experience this level of fulfillment or at peace or acceptance, I'm not sure what the word actually is such an amazing, comforting level, as opposed to when I first started off as a young man. I was always living in tomorrow and trying to make the strides necessary so that ultimately, if only this, then I'd be happy, that sort of thing. And that's, that changed years ago, and that's to our benefit that we
Yeah.
changed our approaches and all.
I used to do that too. Like when I get this done, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not true. Not true. Only happiness for short times, not happiness and joy within.
Right.
But when you get old, you start to see the light.
Speaking from the source.
He's 3 years younger than me.
Yeah, there you go. So then the next category is our physical form of investments in capital and wealth. Exercise, diet, sleep, regular activities, clean, fresh water, nutrient-rich foods, appropriate portion size, fasting, those sorts of things. Really, a lot of what you've seen us on this channel is how much we look at the microbiome of the soil and how we feed the soil, but the soil feeds the plants, and really beautiful beneficial plants that are nutrient dense help us to process the food in such a way that it can benefit us. But it feeds the microbiomes in our digestive systems, and we have all these different microbiomes, and I've made videos about those things in the past. But really taking good care, that first ethic, self-care, is so important. And so all of these forms of investment really go back to the ethics, the self-care, earth care, people care, and future care.
And I think too like you said, staying physically active, especially, as you're older and all. I got up this morning, I was kind of achy and a little off, and I said, I have to get outside. So I did everything outside with the animals, and the dog and I are running around, and then I was 100% fine. And I think doing some form of, it doesn't have to be weight bearing. It could be, you can have a lot of ailments, and you can do Tai Chi,
Right.
and you can learn that on video, and even like a few movements and all. It just helps your body
Yoga,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yoga, I'm not too flexible,
Yeah.
but I've tried it. But even those type of exercises we get older would be, beneficial.
Yeah, it's just important to for everyone to take the opportunity to write down some of the things that you believe fill in some of these categories, and then creating goals for changes. Not like a New Year's resolution and some timing thing like that, but creating goals so that you can address some of the things that we're talking about today.
And sometimes being spontaneous,
Yeah.
like yesterday we said, okay, it's going to be really cold tomorrow, so let's go for a walk to the beaver pond with Hank the dog. And it was great. It was spontaneous, and I think it really kind of helped our body, and and just our whole mood and mental part, which I think is your next category.
Yep. So, yeah, so my final
Segue.
category of the 10 forms of investment is mental, emotional. So building a network of positive, supportive people, staying active, eating, drinking, and sleeping well, avoiding people and places that drain you, choosing activities that are fulfilling, walks in nature, volunteering, sharing, and teaching, fulfilling the needs of others, setting meaningful goals, and working towards these goals. So, yeah, those are what I consider the 10 forms of capital or wealth or investments that I always go back to. And again, I always look at, well, you know, we can look at things and say, geez, I don't have enough time to do this, or I don't have the money to do this. If you are able to go through and decide on what your ethics are, list the forms of capital and wealth or things that you want to invest in, and then work on the things that are achievable. It's sort of like what some financial advisors recommend for paying down debt, because bless you. So if you have significant credit card debt and student loans and also mortgages and all, you can either use the avalanche method or the snowball method of trying yes of trying to get yourself out of debt, and we went through that whole process. We were really tremendously in debt, both of us attending school later on in life, and credit card debt, mortgage, all of those things, and we worked at it and made it a mission to get that done. The same sort of thing can be done for your investments to achieve some of your goals in each one of these categories. So, do you have anything you want to add, hon?
I think I'm breathing now.
Good Lord. So I guess with all of that, we'll end this video. Please feel free to add comments and suggestions below.
Or any other wealth that you have. I mean, other things that we forgot to put, on the list, or you think is important, for your
Absolutely.
life.
Yeah, we can all learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Our experiences, our thoughts and processes and all. I'm of the personal belief that you need to let go of what other people are saying is not possible or you can't do. And that you need to believe in yourself, and you learn to believe in yourself just like you learn to pay down debt. Bit by bit, you achieve goals, and you reflect back on your achievements. It's difficult to do that at times when you only are listening to other people saying, well, you'll never end up getting this done or doing that, and all. So
It's usually when someone says I can't do something that I get very stubborn and I excel in it.
Yep.
Yeah. My father said, why are you leaving working at Miller and going to vet school? It costs so much money. You're crazy. And then afterwards he said, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we could tell stories about, we've had that happen throughout our whole lives where people thought we were nuts with everything that we did do. And it's worked out pretty well so far. But since this video is getting so long, I thought we'd end it now. We thank you so much for watching it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you think this was of value. And by all means, leave a comment, suggestions. Let us know what you think of this video.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was great seeing you again, and have a
Have a great
joyful day.
Bye-bye now.